Hey everybody, it's Doomed Friend, and today we're going to talk about the difference between controller and mouse and keyboard for Warframe. Now, I have been playing Warframe for several years, and I originally started on Xbox One and have since been playing on PC, but I also have it on Nintendo Switch, and I just wanted to briefly talk to you guys about the difference between using all of them, and maybe shed some light on why certain people prefer using one method of controlling over the other. I've been learning the mouse and keyboard controls for this, so if you see on the gameplay here that I'm just like completely screwing up, it's because I'm in the process of learning. Sometimes I prefer to use controllers, sometimes I prefer to use mouse and keyboard, but let's get into talking about it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the shooting. Now, of course, on controller, the shooting feels like pretty much every other shooting game. Obviously, there are some differences, such as the secondary fire. The default is on the right control stick, which is weird because that's the stick you use to aim. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's not easy to map the secondary fire to anything because it'll take over pretty necessary components of your kit. But other than that, left trigger to aim, right trigger to shoot. Recoil is pretty manageable if you are pretty competent with a controller. Not too much to worry about. Now let's talk about mouse and keyboard. Now again, this is coming from the opinion of someone who has been only using mouse and keyboard for like a week and a half. Now I do use mouse and keyboard on other games, and I have used it in the past, but I've only been seriously using it for about a week and a half. So cut me a little bit of slack here. For shooting on mouse and keyboard, it is way easier to do certain things. I actually hate using, on console, I hate using Akjagara, Ak Magnus, a high fire rate Latron, because it kind of just hurts after a while of you pressing that trigger so fast on your controller. It just actually gets to the point where it's painful to do. However, when I pick up the mouse, it's actually much easier to click that left mouse button to get those shots off, so it doesn't feel as tedious to shoot them. Of course, there's still a limit to how fast I can click the button, but it's a lot easier to do that. Now, for other things like sniping, I have a lot easier time on controller. I know, I'm a scrub, but I just do. I've been playing like shooters on console for so long that I'm just infinitely better at like precise aiming on the controller than on keyboard and mouse. But other than that, it's pretty standard. Right click to aim, left click to shoot, and then on my MMO mouse that I have, I mapped the secondary fire to G16. I'm gonna link the mouse that I use down in the description if you want to go check out what that means, but I don't know how else to describe it. It's just a button on the side of my mouse. Anyway, let's talk about one of the most important things about the game, the movement. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say that since I'm more comfortable with controller and I play games like high intensity games like Destiny PvP and Overwatch PvP, and I actually used to play Halo a lot in high intensity matches, I'm going to go ahead and say that I am a little biased here since the movement on mouse and keyboard is extremely hard for me to understand and comprehend. So let's start with actually PC controls. So for the PC controls, I actually had to map a lot of the things to my mouse because my left hand is just not competent enough to press a lot of the buttons necessary to pull off the movement in this game. So I actually have the slide thing to G17, again, mouse down in the description, and then also to G13, and then I have melee to G12 and G16. I have 13 and 12 there, so I could do like a micro slide dash thing where I can just like press those two buttons together and it does the slide attack. So that's kind of cool. But the slide dash, I have to map it to my mouse. I was not able to do it when I was just on the actual keyboard. Just way too complicated for me. I understand it's supposed to be easy, but it's just not easy enough for me. But then on the controller it is really fluid. But the actual differences in how it feels regardless of whether or not I'm actually good at the mechanism. How it feels to move on console as opposed to PC. Now, this isn't like which one's better. It's just how they feel. The PC is very good at the changing direction and like focusing down an area and being able to just like dart around on the fly, and the console is more about like flowing, and in my opinion it's easier to control an area when you're on console, because while it does force you to kind of turn more slowly a little bit, you're able to control your movement a little better. It's less erratic, I guess. So sometimes I'll actually play, depending on what frame I'm playing, I might just play on controller, just because it's easier to do it that way. But I mean, they're both relatively different. Of course, if you're good at mouse and keyboard, you'll be able to create that flowing effect as well. For me, it's just easier to pull it off on controller, because the controller doesn't necessarily allow you to pull off like the twitchy movement that the PC can, and it just kind of settles pretty like nicely in that like comfort zone. But the PC controls are actually probably better for movement overall. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is just the overall gameplay of it. So not just movement, not just shooting, but that plus the Warframe abilities, everything together, playing through the missions. So on console, it feels extremely unique. There aren't a lot of shooters. I mean, this game is extremely unique anyway, but there aren't a lot of shooters that can give you that feel that Warframe has. Fast-paced, being able to jump around, jump off walls, all that stuff. It's a very unique feel, and it feels like it flows really well. But on PC, it feels more intense. On PC, it actually feels a little twitchy, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it makes me feel differently while I'm playing. I feel less like I'm just gonna like relax and float around and be this majestic ninja, and I'm gonna be more like I'm a badass. I'm gonna like jump from wall to wall, slashing people and killing them as I fly around. Obviously in this gameplay I'm not doing that because I'm a schmuck, but that's kind of how the feel is it goes from like low intensity to high intensity. Now, of course, it's not like a huge gap. Like if you're going to play on controller, oh my god, the game is going to be super low intensity, and vice versa for the mouse and keyboard. But it definitely does feel slower on with the controller than it does on mouse and keyboard, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It definitely works in certain play styles, and sometimes when I'm just having a relaxing night, and I'm just kind of chilling back, leaning back in my chair, watching some TV while I play. I don't necessarily want to have the mouse and keyboard. I don't necessarily want to be able to have twitchy movement all around, and I don't want to necessarily have to be super overpowered. Sometimes I just want to go into like a low-level Fisher mission and just farm relics for a while. And that, if I'm just doing some relaxed gameplay with like just like fun guns and some random frame, I don't need to have the mouse and keyboard to do that. I can just play on my controller and just relax, It's more natural for me, and it makes the game feel more like at a comfortable pace rather than feeling like you have to be the most intense thing ever, And of course, that's just my opinion. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments, or don't. It's whatever. You have fun doing whatever you want. I just wanted to share with you guys my experience of being able to play both. So yeah, let me know if you guys want to see something specific. But if not, I'll see you in the next video. It's going to be a surprise. Peace out, bros.